Okay, I think we're recording now. The genesis of today's discussion was a request from Stephen just to have a refresher or a working session to go through P6 and to try to maybe demystify and simplify the schedule updating procedure that we're in theory supposed to be going through at a minimum quarterly, and in some cases it makes sense to do it more often than that. For myself, I am doing most of my projects on a quarterly basis, although sometimes it happens more frequently because I do have monthly meetings set up with some of my PMs. And if there are schedule changes that come up during those monthly meetings, for me, it's just simpler to do it either right then in the meeting or after the meeting, just to capture those in real time. So let me, and I killed my P6 now, but let me share screen and show you how it rolls for me. Wait, let's see. All right.
And Hans, you had talked about going over an example that's kind of like almost on-call in nature. Will you be doing that? Or can you go over that today as well? How you deal with those kind of projects?
Yeah, in fact, that's the update that I'm planning on showing you.
Oh, perfect.
I think applies, or at least it's the way that I'm handling the projects that for me have that same kind of on-call annual cycle that is the same or repetitive from year to year. Okay, so when you start, it should just pull up the program listing typically. Taking just a minute, sorry.
Yeah, it's not as slow as IPCS, but it's, competing.
They're running neck and neck. Wow, taking its sweet time. Okay, here we go. So I was just in here a minute ago. This is the project that I'm going to use as an example today. But oftentimes you'll end up on the project level listing. So you want to go in and find the project that you want to update. If you weren't aware of it, there is a find button up here that you can type in find. Just hit the find menu option and you can find whatever you want. In this case, we're going to look for FMA 652. It'll go through the full project listing and you'll see down below, this is my sandbox area, which I'll talk to in just a minute. FMA 652 is down there also. So it's a handy tool to find the projects that you're looking at and see where they exist in the project listing. So the very first step that I will encourage you to do, if you want to, I don't do it every time now because updating for me is fairly routine in most cases, and most of my projects are pretty simple. But if you're not sure about the process, or if you have more complex projects that you don't want to mess up, the best practice is to jump in here to the project listing. I just right click, and there are multiple ways to do this. You can use the menus up here also, but for me, a right click is the simplest. Oops. And I just say copy, and it's gonna copy this entire project. And then I'll scroll down here to my Hans sandbox. Don't
worry, Hans. I've almost put mine in yours before too.
There we go. I was like, where'd that other H come from? Threw me for a loop there for a minute. And then you just right click anywhere in the sandbox and click paste. And it's gonna ask you what you want to copy. I just go with the defaults that are there. You can deselect things if you're not using them in your schedule. Most of these things I'm actually not using in my schedule, but for simplicity's sake, just hit OK, and it'll copy the full project for you down into your sandbox. And the reason we do that is if while you're updating, you make some kind of mistake and you're like, oh, I don't know how to undo that. You can just come down here, grab your sandbox project that you just saved. In this instance, I think it's probably this one right here, my FMA 652. And you can copy it and paste. You can delete the project up above that you messed up, copy this one, paste it back up above, and then you're good to go again. So in theory, as long as you're starting by copying your project, pasting it down below in your sandbox, you've always got the most current version somewhere living, even if you mess up above during your update. Any
So, Hans,
questions?
I think you answered the question for me, but if I've worked in the sandbox and now I've got what I'm comfortable with as the updated schedule, I'm then going to drag that back up above and replace that. Is that accurate?
You can do that. The way that I do it, Dave, is I use this as my backup. So it's like a temporary backup. So I'll just leave this one down here, this one that I just copied down. And usually if I'm practicing, if I'm doing a good practice, see how I throw the data date on here? I'll mark this one with my data date to say, okay, the data date on this is 01. Well, here's my standard format, 2024-01-01. So now I know this project in my sandbox was the last update with the data date, the 1st of January 2024. And then I will go back up here to the live project, Dave. Oops, scrolling too fast. I'll go back up here to the live project and do my updating in the live project. And then if everything goes well, then next time I do the sandbox trick, I just delete the one from previous. And you can see my sandbox has a bunch of stuff in it right now that I don't need anymore. But my live version is up here in the actual project listing. So I can go through my sandbox and clean that out from time to time and delete any older project that is no longer serving as my temporary backup.
So you're doing it first in the sandbox, and then if everything looks all right, you're going back up to the live one and doing it there?
No, for me, I just use the sandbox as a repository. I'll copy my project, paste it down below. So now I've got it in two places.
Okay. Yep. I get what you're saying now. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So any other questions there? We can spend time wherever we need on this, and we can schedule more of these if people, if it's helpful, I'm happy to answer any question and talk through whatever comes up. All right. So then now that I've got a backup saved down below, I'll come back up here to my live project. Again, I just right click open project. It's going to pull up this project with its current data date. And now we're looking at the activity view of the project. The view that I'm using, and this is one thing to pay attention to that is helpful, is if you come in here to view, go to layout, and go to open layout. There's a whole listing here of different layouts that you can apply to your schedule. I'm just gonna, you may all know this, you may not, but you can go through and you can check all these out and see how they show up on your screen. Changing your layout doesn't do anything to the schedule data. It's only changing how you're actually viewing it as you're looking at P6. So I can pick any of these and see if one of them I like better than another. But the one that is the most useful for me, and that I think that I know Pam developed for us specifically to do making our updating more simple, is this IMPS PM interview plot. When I apply that, it gives me this pretty standard view that has my activity ID. Sorry, you can apply it. And then in order to actually make that view stick, you have to click open. So it's got our activity ID, resources, and hours. So I can talk to this. I'm going to leave it towards the end if we have time. But this is basically where we're showing what resources are you being used on the project. And when I say resources, that's manpower or woman power. That's project control specialist resources, and the project manager, in this instance, Guy Minor. And then for a while, and it's been a while since we've done this, but we were calling out whether a procurement specialist was needed on that activity or not. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the schedule for FMA 652, which is a managed reserve project. Similar to what you were asking about, Deidre, this project is a recurring project every year, similar to some of the task order projects that we have. It gets funded every year with a certain amount of budget. The activities every year are pretty similar, like in this FMA 652 project. The facilities group is doing things like replacing HVAC units, or buying and installing new bus lifts, or buying and installing new high-speed bay doors on the bus bays. So it's projects that get done every year that are similar. They get procured in the calendar year, they get installed and completed in the calendar year, and they get closed out in the calendar year. Some of these projects, from what I've seen, and I actually have a few, have like a one activity that's like 10 years long that says we're replacing LRVs. And we started with the procurement 3 years ago, and we're just replacing LRVs for the next 10 years. If you can, I would encourage, and I think we're being encouraged from Tori and up above, to be more detailed in our schedules. For me, with the FMA project, it hasn't gotten to the point yet where it's useful to actually schedule every project in P6. Because, for instance, this FMA 652 project, last year we had 32 projects that got completed under FMA 652. And if I were to go in and try and schedule a procurement activity, construction activity, and a closeout activity for every one of those, I would do pretty much nothing besides P6 all week long. So there's a balance, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you might get told differently from elsewhere. There's a balance to be struck between how much information in P6 is useful and helpful, and how much is too much, and now I'm actually not being effective, or it's not even being updated quickly enough to be valuable. It becomes busy work as opposed to actually adding to the success of the projects. So Deidre, this is the way that I've found that it actually lends some value to the project process. And you can see right now, we're in the 2023 cycle. And so right now, the activities that are going on are, we're in our 2023 planning and scoping for those 32 projects. It's actually less this year. We've got like 27 this year, I think, that we're planning and scoping. Once we're done with that, we're going to move into our product procurement cycle for the year, and that typically takes us 3 months to get through or so. And then the construction actually is starting before that. So you can see my procurement activity started in February. My construction activity is starting in April, so they are overlapping. It's not a start to finish relationship, meaning my procurement of those 27 projects started in February, and it's going to take, right now we're showing it's going to take through the end of May to get all of our procurements done. But the installation and construction of some of those projects is starting theoretically in April and is going to go pretty much through the end of the year. Deidre, do you want to give some more background, or does that help answer?
So
Yeah,
I think it does. I think so. I guess so. The way that me and Landon were going through one of the scenarios was he was giving me like one particular, like how you're saying the multiple projects under one. He was giving me one particular like project that's happening. and the dates for that. But I think that's getting too granular because then we would have to do it for everyone he identifies, if
Yep.
I'm understanding. So I guess in that case, since they're doing some design right now, basically anytime he's doing design, then that line, even if it goes over some construction that's happened, it's okay, rather than doing start to finish. Is that what I would do in that case?
That's the way that it's been helpful for me. And I'm just speaking to my conversations with the project manager guy that I'm supporting. The
Yeah.
schedule in this format is useful for him because he can look at this and say, oh yeah, we're planning and scoping. We had that scheduled this year, the 2024 cycle year, to be done in April. Sorry, I said 2023 earlier. I apologize. I was off a year. We've scheduled that we need to be done with that by April to be able to stay on schedule for the year, and he can track against that. And in our monthly conversations, or I meet with Guy more frequently than that, but in our regular conversations, we can pop the schedule open and say, how are we doing? Are we going to hit that date? Are we not going to hit that date? How are we doing with our procurements? Have we started some of the procurements, and how many do we have done? So it's enough detail that it's useful to have conversation around it. But if I was only updating quarterly and I had 27 activities in here for the 27 different purchase orders that we need to get pushed through procurement, it just isn't functional and helpful amount of activities to be showing, because I'm not updating them and we're not looking at them real time enough to actually be valuable to helping the project be a success.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I'm trying to find value in it for Landon for using
Yep.
this. And
Yeah.
that's what's kind of proving a little bit difficult. I guess my question, like for your project, is it something where Guy plans like we're gonna work on or replace the X amount of things, or do you get the things that pop up like, oh, this broke or whatever, so now we're gonna go fix that as well, and that's added to our number of projects? Is that something that happens within your project here?
It does, yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we have a list of 2024 projects that we're planning on completing. We've programmed out our entire project budget in for this particular subledger. We've got about $1 million this year to expend. So we've programmed out that, and we have projects to spend that full $1 million. But during the year, there are things that pop up like, oh, that bay door got hit by a bus and now we need an emergency bay door replacement. Or the HVAC unit that we thought was going to last a couple more years just died, so now we got to replace that. So there are a combination in here of projects that we have planned and anticipated, as well as other projects that pop up.
Okay.
I guess I'd encourage everybody in your conversations with your project managers, if Landon wants to be able to see, oh, what's the progress of project X, let's say it's a bigger project that he wants to track in more detail, then by all means, get it in the schedule and talk to it weekly or monthly or however regularly you talk to him to be able to help track that progress. So I'm not saying don't put detail in your schedules. I'm saying in your conversations, figure out what the valuable information is that you can track against, try to capture that, and then make your schedules useful and a valuable tool as opposed to just busy work that you end up doing.
Hans, in your experience, are the project managers going into P6 as well, or is this only something that's happening when you as project control specialist is pulling it up in front of the project manager?
Yeah, for me, it's only me. The project managers, I don't even know if my project managers actually have access to P6. Does anyone, just out of curiosity, does anybody have a project manager that's currently operating or likes to be in the P6 program or arena?
All of mine hadn't even heard of it until I made schedules.
Yeah,
And-
same.
So yeah, I don't think any of them are using it.
Okay.
So none of the project managers are using this as a tool to manage their schedules, the individual nuances of what's going on within their projects. And so what I'm interpreting is that this is really an accountability tool
Yeah.
that the project control specialists are using to hold the project manager accountable to core activities.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good lens that I'm trying to look through of like, as I start to manage of like, oh, because then even the executive team only sees a glimpse of this within the quad report itself, which is like
Right.
a tiny picture in the quadrant.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to gauge, oh, are we accountable or not to schedule?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm word vomiting and translating on my mind, but that idea of like, yeah, not spending a ton of time getting into the weeds of this because the project manager is not using it. And the only reason that we're using it is just to make sure that we're accountable for the activities that are happening during the course of the year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's
All right, thanks.
that's a pretty accurate description of at least how it functions for me with regard to conversations and the usefulness of it. It is essentially accountability for PMs and project control specialists to sit together and look at, and then just the reporting functionality that comes out of it.
Okay, so that's helpful for me. I didn't know if the project managers were using this or not.
No, my hope is that, and I think our collective hope is that once we get the integration with Procore sorted out, that it'd be even easier for a project manager to jump into Procore and look at it, just pull up the schedule tool, be like, oh, there's my schedule. I can almost instantly see where we're at, where we're supposed to be. So that functionality, I think, will be helpful when we get it sorted.
Cool. Sorry to take us on a little.
No, it's valuable. I'm happy to do more of these for sure. Okay, so that was a lot of context and background talk about schedules. Other questions before I move into what I actually do for updating? Okay. So we talked about making the copy into the sandbox. That's typically step one that I do. Step two that I do is we'll come into the schedule, and I believe there actually is, it's either in our project control specialist handbook, or it should be, and it's just living in an email that I have, but Pam Palla kindly typed up the process to update baselines, which is the next step that I do. If people don't have that, I can find that email, or someone could jump into the project control. I don't know, Leslie, maybe you know if it's already captured in our manual.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Okay.
say it is, Hans. In fact, Tori went in and put a lot more detail into even
Great.
from further from what Pam had. So yeah, it's in the project controls
Awesome.
help handbook.
Thanks for confirming that. So what that looks like in real time is you click on project up here in the menus, and you click on maintain baselines. So before I do that, let me just talk quickly for anyone that doesn't know. On the right side over here in our layout, and again, the layout that we're in, if you look where my cursor is the IMPS PM interview plot. And on the right side in the Gantt chart layout, or the timeline layout, you'll see that the activities have a large bar and then a small yellow bar underneath them. The small yellow bar is showing what your baseline schedule. So when we're talking about a baseline up here, assigning baselines or maintaining baselines, that is going to affect these little yellow bars that are displaying. And what they're meant to show is, last time I did a schedule update, what was this activity's duration and where does it stand now? So I'm going to take one that you can see a big difference on, this 2023 product procurement. If you look at the timeline bar for that activity over here, 2023 product procurement, you'll see the little yellow bar that's below it is only about half as long as the large activity bar above it. And what that says at a quick glance is the last schedule that I'm using for a baseline, and another word for baseline would just be my comparison. So the previous schedule that I'm comparing against, this activity for 2023 product procurement started mid Q1 in 2023 and was supposed to be done end of Q3 2023. But what we're showing now is that those procurements are now, as of the last update that I did, this activity has stretched all the way out into middle of Q2 in 2024. So the baseline is meant to just be a quick reference to be able to say last time, or comparing to the last schedule update that we did, how does that activity duration and timeline compare with what it currently is? So when we do a baseline updating, what we're changing is the schedule that we're comparing our current schedule against. In the UTA environment, and we just had some discussion about this a week or two ago, we are updating the baselines pretty frequently, usually with every single update. There is some debate, or there's cases where that's not actually useful, and we might want to maintain a baseline from previous. In every case, and I'll show you now in the menu, you can always go back and pick which baseline you want to compare against. So the baseline that we're comparing against right now is this one, FMA 652, with a data date of 23/01/01. So that's the baseline that this is being compared against.
Is that data date auto-generated?
No, it's not.
That's a code that you put in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm popping open the menu here. Here are my other baselines that are saved in the project that I could also compare against. In fact, I'll just pull one up. Let's go all the way back to March 2022. I'm going to add this one, select it, and you'll see the yellow lines on this timeline on the right side are going to shift. So now we're showing what the yellow line that's there is what it used to be back in 2022. I'm just using a different schedule to compare against. You'll notice that on some of these activities, there isn't a yellow line. And what that means is using this 2022 schedule, there was no activity for 2023 planning and scoping when this particular, when the current comparison schedule that I'm using was generated. So anything that doesn't have a yellow line under it means that activity is new as compared to the old schedule that you're comparing against.
You go back to the latest
Yeah.
baseline.
Yeah.
And am I reading correctly that in the instance of planning and scoping, the baseline was slated to begin beginning of Q4, but it didn't happen. The activity didn't actually begin until midway through Q4.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Any
two questions.
questions
Does
Yeah.
the baseline only show up if your current date is kind of in it? I see that product procurement on the two lines below have no baseline. So either it's not there or it just doesn't show up because we're not there yet, date-wise.
Good observation. Yeah. What that means is that the baseline schedule, AKA the comparison schedule that we're comparing against, it did not have this activity in it, this 652.1190. So that activity is new since the comparison schedule, the baseline schedule that we're using was saved. So Stephen, you're right. Those two activities didn't exist in the previous schedule against which we're comparing, which is we're referring to as the baseline.
My other question is, to what is the advantage to moving the baseline every periodically? And that's it's just a paradigm I'm stuck in. So
Yeah.
why there's a reason why we're doing it. What is it?
My understanding is that, things may have shifted since our current kind of scheduling cadence and procedure was developed. But at the time that that decision was made, the goal was that this program schedule was going to be printed out on a monthly or quarterly basis for the executive team to look at. And then, like Dave mentioned earlier, to use as an accountability tool for conversation with the project managers to be able to say, okay, 1 quarter ago, you said your current activity of procurement was going to be done at the beginning of Q4. And now you're showing that it's going to be done in Q2 of 2024. Where did those extra 6 months come from, and why, and what's going on there? And my interpretation of that, Stephen, is that it was just more useful to have a closer comparison and to be able to talk to it frequently and say what happened from last time we talked until this time we talked, as opposed to the original baseline for that activity whenever it was created, which might have been a year ago, and isn't as valuable to talk to in comparison's sake, because lots of things can happen in a year's time on this project. I mean, that it may have changed multiple times through that year. And so a year ago's comparison just wasn't as valuable as, well, what happened from 3 months ago when we talked last time. That's my interpretation of it. Yeah.
Is there a layout that shows multiple baselines?
You're asking high-tech questions now.
I just
You can. So down here, these user baselines, you can go through and you could pick. I could pick a baseline for every one of these. I don't know. Now I'll pick a couple here and we'll just see if it's going to display these. The reason it might not display them is because the layout that we're looking at, again, this IMPS PM interview plot, it might only be telling P6 to display this project baseline. It might not actually be telling it to display the primary and secondary user baselines. Let me apply these and see if it does. No, it didn't. So
got it.
What I mean by that, and Stephen, you may know it already, but if you don't, I just right-clicked on my timeline window up here, and you can go in here and see all of the different features, functionality that's associated with a timeline. One of these, I think it's this bar one, you go in here and you can click on these check boxes to say, yes, I want to show that. Yes, I want to show that. Yes, I want to show that. And now when I apply this, I think you'll see those other baselines appear. Oh, I lied. Maybe there's another setting that I haven't clicked.
No,
anyway,
I see some breaks in your yellow line. They're stacked on top
they're
of
overlapping each other. There you go. Good call. Yeah. So, you're exactly right, Stephen. Great eyes. So right now it's displaying all the baselines on one yellow line. I might be able to find the right setting. See how I have rows down here? I might be able to put it on row 2 and bump it down. So there's tons of customization in P6 of the views that you can do.
Got it.
But that's why it's only showing one, because this layout is only telling it to show the one baseline as opposed to however many we might want to compare it against.
I want to get the basics down, so let's get out of the
the weeds.
Yeah.
So I just made some changes to this layout. Those changes that I made with the timeline they're part of the layout. So I'm going to go back and reopen my layout just to clean it up and not save those things that I was just playing around with. Every time you change your layout, P6 asks you if you want to save any changes to your layout, and I'm going to say no. When I'm in this IMPS interview plot, I always say no, because this is a global layout that everybody is using. So I, as one individual user, don't want to change that. There is a place where you can save your own layouts, and I have some of my own. These are user specific layouts. So you can see I've got 5 of my own layouts that I use from time to time. I can make changes in those whenever I want to, but these global layouts that you see up above, I try not to ever save changes to those so I'm not messing them up for everybody else. So I'm going to reapply just the standard PM layout view. Now we're back to here. Now I'm going to jump back into the baseline. And what I'm going to do now is save. So the big activity bars that we're looking at, the blue, green, and red activity bars, I'm going to be saving those as a baseline is what P6 calls them. But in layman's term, I'm going to be saving those as a new comparison schedule that I can compare against once I have made my activity changes to the current schedule. So I jump in here, click maintain baselines. There's a button here that says add. I'm going to add a new baseline. And it's going to ask me, do you want to save a copy of the current project as a new baseline or a new comparison schedule? And I'm going to say yes to that. You can use other schedules as baselines if you've got this same, theoretically, a different schedule for the same project somewhere in P6. You can also compare against that. But in this instance, we're just saving the current project as a new baseline. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to do its thing, say a job has been scheduled, so it's running this job is what it calls it. There can be a tricky point here. Sometimes this screen updates automatically and it will show me the new baseline, and sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it didn't. There hasn't been a new baseline added. So I have to hit the magic button, or one of the magic buttons in P6. It's F5. And if you type F5, and I'm quite certain this is in fact, I'm sure it's in the description that Pam typed up about how to do baselines. If you hit F5, it will do a refresh of the window that you're in right now, and you'll see the new baseline pop up in the menu. So I hope everyone watched and saw it there. So now when I'm just dragging the column width to be able to display the whole title. Now you can see there's a new baseline down here at the bottom with my current data date, which is January 1st, 2024, the last time the schedule was updated. It shows the date added of March 24th. It just generates with this generic B1, but I'm going to call it so that I know in the future what the schedule, what schedule window was. Basically, I put in the data date of what this current schedule is. If you're curious about where to see your data date really quickly, oops, wrong button. If you look down here at the bottom of the screen where the cursor is, you can see instantly what the data date is of the current schedule that you're looking at. It's also represented by the blue line right here that you can see on the timeline over here. So that's your current data date. The data date for this schedule, and when they say data date, what that means is when was the last time that you updated this schedule? What date do you want to show it updated through? So even though I probably did this update later in January, it might have been like January 20th or something like that. I used the data date of January 1st. There's reasons to do that, and we can talk about those another time. But this one was, again, January 1st, 2024. So now I've created a new baseline, and it's saved in P6 as a baseline comparison schedule. And my next step is to go to assign baselines. I'm going to take these two out. Sorry, we don't need that stuff that I was mucking around with. But the project baseline, I'm now going to go into this pull down menu. And I'm going to select this new baseline that I just created with the current data date. So the current data date matches the data date down here at the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to apply this. And if your mind's thinking quickly, you're going to think, oh, those yellow lines are all going to now update to match exactly the activity, because what I'm doing now is I'm comparing the current schedule to the current schedule. So all of those lines match exactly. Okay, so that's maintaining and updating and creating a new baseline, which I do every time. Currently, the UTA, the operating procedure that we've been asked to follow is we update the baseline every time we update a project.
I have a question about the data date.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to Todd, he said something about the data date.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to be, and I can't remember if he said it was that it's supposed to be the end of the month or the beginning of the month. He said he felt he was doing it one way and that he was told it was wrong. Wait, is Todd on this call? Todd, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And
I can't remember which it was.
it was really just trying to get alignment with the group on, are we calling this the Q4 2023? Because I had been, before the instructions came out, I'd been using a data date of January 1st, 2024 and calling it my Q1 2024 update, and basically data date of January 1st. And I'm looking out, updating the schedule as of that date, looking forward, versus using January or December 31st, 2023, and looking essentially back, as we're calling it, Q4 2023. So it's really it's the same. It's accomplishing the same thing as Hans says. The data date is really just the time that you're looking at the schedule and saying, looking at these activities and saying, where does the project exist relative to this date for these activities? And so if we're going to call it the Q3 2023 or Q4 2023, that's fine. We probably would use that December 31st, 2023 as a data date. If we're going to call it Q1 2024, that's why I use the January 1st. But I don't know that it makes a lot of difference, because it's one day and it's just really the semantics of, are we updating to Q1 of this year, or is this looking at the last quarter of 2023? So that was something that I think probably needed some additional discussion with the group, or however Tori wants to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, the consistency thing is a good discussion. Deidre, to try to answer that, oftentimes when at least when we were doing the quarterly update, and this has been disrupted a little bit by the quad reporting now, which is triennially as opposed to quarterly. Those schedules the data dates are kind of getting mixed up, jumbled for me, because sometimes I have to jump in, or I want to jump in and do an update to prepare for a quad reporting meeting, even though it's not the end of the quarter. So my data dates are getting kind of jumbled, and we as a group might want to talk again and have some alignment. Like Todd said, it's not really that big of a deal which day you choose. And the way that Pam, at least from what I know about how Pam pulls together the program schedules when she does it, is she'll actually kind of look to see, okay, I want to make sure that all of the schedules have been updated within this window, and she can set a filter to show her, yeah, we've got everything updated starting somewhere around middle of December through the middle of January, and any project that has a data date in that window is good to go. Or here's the projects that haven't been updated in that window and someone needs to go update them. That was a long-winded answer. Say I wouldn't worry about it too much, but we as a group can keep talking about that. And when we are talking schedules, just keep your ears pricked open for, okay, Tori said use January 1st as the data date, or January 15th, and then hold that in your mind or make a note of it. And whenever you're doing your schedule updates, try to use that data date for consistency. Anything else on baselines? Any other questions about that step?
So Hans, if you're syncing baselines with the current data date,
Uh-huh.
how do baselines on a regular basis, how do we get to the instance that we just saw where they don't match?
Yeah, okay, great. That'll come up right now. So the next thing that I do is I update my activities. And when I say update my activities, what that means for me is I will go through and I'll look at the activities that are ongoing And then I'll hopefully have discussed those with my project manager and know how they need to be updated. So when I look at my timelines over here, anything in blue is past and done. So this 2022 planning and scoping activity, you can see the full activity bar over here is blue. That means it's done for me. Like that isn't going to be changed anymore. It's not an ongoing activity. It's in the past. The other way you can see that is by looking at your start and finish dates. You'll see that there's an A next to that, which means A stands for actual. So this is telling me that the actual date that this activity started, or that we recorded it anyway, was 10th of January 2022. And the actual date it finished was 31st of August 2022. They both have an A by it. If you look at the 2024 planning and scoping activity, you'll see there's an A by the start date, meaning it started. We recorded the beginning of that activity as 6th of November, but there's no A by the finish date, which means it hasn't been actualized. We haven't said this is the date that it finished, which makes sense because we're the 14th of March right now, and we're saying this is going to go on through the 26th of April. So we're not, the activity is most likely ongoing. In this case, it still is. And so that's not an actualized date. And you'll see over here in the timeline, it's either going to be green or red. Red represents it's your critical path, meaning based on your schedule logic, that's the longest path to get done with the schedule. The green means it's a concurrent activity that's ongoing that does not affect the critical path or the longest end date of the schedule. So for me, there's a couple ways to do this, and I'm always a little, well, the times that I have kind of done schedule tutorials, I'm a little touchy at this point because there are multiple ways that you can update a schedule. And I'll show you what I do. It's I don't know if it even is best practice industry wise, but it's kind of my own process of how I update schedules to be efficient and also to try to get them as accurate as I can without mucking around with too much data. The main one trick that I use that I really like is you'll see your data date here. It's the vertical blue line. Again, January 1st, 2024. You'll see it right there on the calendar. If you come up here with your cursor and see how it splits the line, like you'll see in Excel when you're dragging and expanding a column, if you click on that, you can drag your data date to the right and it will open up this wider yellow bar. You can drag it as far as you want to. What this is doing is highlighting your schedule activities. So what I like to do is I'll click on that timeline date. I'll drag it forward to as far as I want to go. And I'm going to say we're going to update this through the 31st of March. It's a little tricky to get exactly on the 31st because the timeline is pretty small. So, okay, we're April 1st. It doesn't actually make a difference. So that doesn't get recorded anywhere. I can change this whenever I want to. Like there's no implication of exactly having it on the 31st of March. So just get it in the range. And what that does, you'll see it highlights in your activity view on the left side in yellow, any activity that is ongoing or active during the schedule window that you just highlighted. So I zoomed in a little bit here. I expanded the view just to make it easier to see. But you can see over here, we've got 1, 2, this one just barely is inside that yellow window, 3, 4 activities that have that are ongoing or showing that they should be active in this yellow window. And if you look on the left side, you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 activities that should be ongoing in this yellow schedule window that we've highlighted. I'm looking at the time now and it's 1:55. Being conscious of CCC meeting and people's other obligations, I can keep going with this for as long as we want. I don't actually have to be in CCC. But we might, before I actually plunge into this, because the next kind of 4 steps all get convoluted together, it might be worth actually scheduling another window of time where we can look at this together and I can not feel rushed to try to show you guys how I update activities. But that said, I also don't want to leave anybody in a lurch. So if someone's like, oh, I got to know this today, or I got to have it done by tomorrow, whatever, I'm happy to either spend time now or later today.
Yeah, well,
Anybody?
I have to
Yeah.
be on CCC, so we'll have to do it a different time.
Okay.
But thank you for doing it. I
Yeah.
know at least 3 times as much as I did before.
That's great. Happy to. Steven, you're the one that asked about it, so I'll prioritize finding a window that works for you and probably Deidre. I know Deidre, I think Leslie also was kind of specific to, I want to hear more. So
Yes.
I'll see if I can
Thank
find
you.
windows. Yeah, gladly, that work for you 3 as first priority, and I'll be sure to record them for anybody else. And then I'll just invite everyone else to jump in if they want to also.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hans, this is super helpful.
Thanks for hanging in there. I know P6 scheduling can be kind of boring, and you've listened to me drone on for 56 minutes now. So thanks for sitting tight and hanging in.
You have done well. P6 in general could make a person give up the will to live, but you have done well.
That's kind of you,
Yeah.
Steven. Thanks.
I'm honestly surprised it's been an hour already. That seems
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's very
Great,
high
yes.
for P6, so yeah.
It's
Very
gone by
helpful.
quickly.
Thank you.
Glad to help out. And
You'll
look,
have to-
I mean,
you'll have
as
to-
weird as it sounds, I look forward to doing it again soon.
Thank
go ahead,
you.
sorry.
I'll have to retitle it, Hans, to P6 Made Enjoyable.
Yes.
I'm going to do that. Watch for that exciting moment coming up in your next week timeline.
For the sick and
This is
twisted,
very
yes, here
helpful.
we are.
Thank you.
All right. Glad to hear it, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for your
Thank
participation
you.
too. We'll
Bye.
chat again soon.
Thanks.
All right. See y'all.